Welcome, this is Brenda. In this tutorial we're going to look at how to use Google Forms for creating your quizzes in your classroom. Specifically, we're going to look at the settings that you need to set up for using the quizzes. We're going to give you some basic tips for just getting started, how to create a password on a question, and then how to actually assign this to your students and then grade their results. So let's get started. To get started, we'll need to create a brand new form. So I'll go to my Drive and go to New and More and select Google Forms. So I've started a new quiz and I need to first of all turn on my settings. So up in the top right corner, I'll click the gear symbol, which is your settings, select the quizzes option and turn on Make This a Quiz. And then you'll have to decide if you want the students to automatically see their grades or if you're going to wait till all the students take the assessment and then give them their grades. So I'm going to choose later after manual review. And when the students see that, you'll get to decide when it gets sent back to them, if at all. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave all these options because if I send it back, I definitely want them to see their missed questions, their correct ones, and their point values. Okay, so we're going to say Save. Go back to your settings one more time. And then under the General tab, go ahead and leave it so that the students can only do this once. And then in your presentation, if you want to shuffle questions, that will do it within sections, and we'll look at that in a minute. So we want to make sure that like our last name and our first name don't get shuffled within our actual questions. So if we put the sections appropriately within our form, we should be okay. So let's go ahead and say shuffle question order, and you might even want to put a little message to your students when they're finished. I'll leave it as the default for now. Next, before I get started, I'm going to go up to the More options and go down to Preferences. And there are two options here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my Make Questions Required is already turned on so that if I forget to turn it on, every question will automatically be required for the students to complete. And then set what your default point value is for every one of your questions. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to ask for a last name of a student. Make sure that that one becomes a short answer. I'll just go ahead and duplicate that question and do a first name. You always want to do these as two separate categories, or at least by last name, comma, first name, so that you can sort them alphabetically in the sheet that's created as needed. Now, because my default point values were already set for 2 points each, I'll need to look at this answer key option, which shows up only because I selected that it was a quiz. So I'm going to select answer key and make sure I set these first couple questions down to 0 points each. I've also created an hour question. If you have maybe an AM and a PM elementary group, or if you're in secondary and have it by period, you'll definitely want to be able to sort the results by the different groups of students. So I suggest you put a question in like this. Okay, so I'm going to verify that my points still are at 0 because nothing should have weight yet. And then I'm going to create a new section. So I'm going to come over here to the right, and now I'm going to create my password. So the name of this section is just going to be called Password. Okay, here we go. So my question type, I'm going to say quiz password for my question. I want to make sure that it's a short answer. Okay, so verify that it's short answer. Change your answer key. You don't want to give it any point value, so I'm going to make that 0. And then go back to editing the question. There's an option. Here's the trick to keeping it as a password. You're going to choose response validation, and you're going to change this to regular expression matches, and you're going to put right here whatever your password is. Okay, so I'm just going to put password, but you would actually put the password to the test. And remember that you can change this password between hours. The password is live as the students take it. So even if you have students take it all day long and then you need to change the password for makeup ones, you just go back to this question, change that password right here to whatever you want it to be, and it will update it for live at the point the student is taking it. And then this is the message if they get it wrong. So I usually just say invalid password, try again. Okay, so now we're ready to start building our quiz. Okay, so let's do one more section. And because you shuffled your questions, you want to make sure you put sections in. And also, you don't want the students to be able to see the actual quiz questions until they've completed the password. So it's important that you put a section right here. So I'm going to call this quiz. And then we're going to start adding a few questions. So we'll come over here and then decide whether you want a multiple choice right? Or you want a short answer, etc. If you want the answers shuffled, if it's a multiple choice question, you can go back down to the More option on that question and say Shuffle Option Order, and then these responses will be shuffled along with the questions from our settings menu earlier. Okay, let's do a question that has an image in it. So I want the students to be able to just name a shape, but I want to give them the picture of the shape. There's several places you can put pictures in, so pay attention. These image icons are hidden until you hover. So if I want the image to be part of the question, I'm going to select this option. And I'll go ahead and do a quick search. You can easily resize that shape just by grabbing these corner handles, resize it some. Okay, and then let's put our options in. Okay, once your options are in, make sure that you key this correctly. So to key it, we're going to simply click our answer key. We're going to select our right answer. When you want to go back to the question itself, select Edit Question. So let's go back up to this one, and we'll do our answer key, select our answer, and keep going. If you have a short answer question, it'll allow you to be able to just type in the actual answer, and you can do multiple right answers if you want to. Before you assign it, make sure you apply a theme, and I've done a Halloween theme here. Now I've done that is I've simply just said Customize Theme, which is your puzzle piece right up here in the top right corner. Choose an image, and then Google will give you several of them to choose from. So you just pick which image you want to apply this, and I just chose from illustrations. There's a Halloween one down here, so you can select that, okay? And then when you're ready to send this out to students, click your Send option, and be sure to click this link, shorten your URL, and you can paste this URL into a HyperDoc if you have it, or if you're going to email students, maybe make a QR code, but really the best way is if you're using Google Classroom, then just push it out through there. Okay, now last thing, let's look at how to grade this. So once you have given this out to students, you'll start to see the responses come in here of how many students. I've just done this once. You will also want to go ahead and make your spreadsheet so that as your responses are coming in, you can see them one by one. So if you click this More option and say Select Response Destination, create a spreadsheet. Sometimes when I create that spreadsheet, I like to put a date on it, especially if I'm reusing it. So, I might change this to, just fall 2019. And then I say Create. And that spreadsheet will be created for you to reference and be able to see all your responses at once. If you click this green icon, that'll just open up that spreadsheet for you, and you can see those student responses coming in, and it will automatically give you the score right here. Okay, you can also, if you're looking at your form, here's your questions tab, here's your responses tab. Under the responses tab, here's the overall summary where it gives you some statistics of the questions. If you go to the question right here, then you can scroll question by question and kind of look at everyone's results for that one question at a time and regrade anything that you might need. And then the individual option lets you scroll student by student. It also lets you release the scores back to the student. So when you say release scores, you can select which students you want to release it to, and then send a message via email is what they'll get. So you can type a little response right here. So just say send emails and release, and the students will get a full summary of all the questions for the assessment, what they've missed, what they've got right. Be careful releasing those scores, because the questions for the test are actually on there too, and the students are easily able to share those with each other because they're sent via email. But it's great for review. It's great for formative assessments where you're going to then maybe change the questions for the next round when you give them out. So good luck exploring Google Forms with quizzes, and I hope you discover great things you can do with it.